Hi everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to come to my talk today. So yeah, we'll be talking about how to be discovered online, maximising your website's potential. So just a little bit of an introduction. I'm Ella, I'm the head of the digital marketing team at Finally Agency. Just some semi-interesting facts about me: crazy cat mum, big foodie, likes exploring, pickle enthusiast and a Grey's Anatomy super fan, and I like to think there's going to be loads of Grey's Anatomy fans in the audience. So yeah, today basically, as kind of mentioned, is a slightly different talk. We are a manufacturing and engineering focused agency, so we specialised basically creating websites, doing marketing for companies in the industry. So wanted to kind of give some really kind of useful, usable tips and tricks on basically how to maximise your website's potential with the aid of SEO. So I'm just going to run through a little bit of an overview of what SEO is, why it's important, talk about how to identify goals, how to actually identify and hone in on your audience, and then how to create content for your audience. And then finally ending up with kind of tracking your conversions and making sure your website's working as effectively as it possibly can. So to start off with, there are a number of different traffic types that will make up the basically users that come to your website. So obviously we get users from organic search is what we're focusing on today. So that will be users who come to your website through search engines. So that will be Google, Bing, Yandex, etc. There's also paid search, which will be kind of paid adverts that are on search engines. You've got referrals, so that will be users coming to your website from third-party sites, such as, say, Pez Media or The Engineer, and they come through to your site. So that website's referred the user to you. And then you've got, email, direct, social, and other, which will be kind of any other campaigns that you might be running. So we're going to specifically obviously talk about organic search today. And for most websites that we see, organic search is the highest driving traffic source. So this is typically what we see for most of our clients and across the board. So it's really important that if it's the highest driving source of traffic, therefore you need to be investing in SEO to maximise your website's potential. So what is SEO? So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and it is the process of improving your website to increase its visibility for relevant searches in search engines. So for an example here, obviously Finally are a marketing agency. We're actually based in Kent, so for us a really relevant query would be Marketing Agency Kent. So we need to make sure that we are ranking in the search engine results for that query, and as you can see we are in the example given there. So obviously, what does increasing a website's visibility for relevant searches actually do? Well, it can increase the quantity and quality of traffic to the website. But what does increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to the website do? Well, if you've got more people coming to your site, you've got more opportunity for leads and ultimately sales. So you really want to maximise on that opportunity. So at this point, it's really good to kind of understand how your website is currently converting. So it's really good to benchmark your current performance and understand your website's conversion rate. So it's not a case of just driving more traffic to the site. It's actually making sure that the users that are coming to the site are converting and taking meaningful actions. So the best way to do this is to do a little bit of maths. So you basically look at the leads generated on your website within a specific time frame divided by the number of visits to the website within that same time frame, and that equals your conversion rate. So for example, if you get 50 leads in 1 month, divide that by the number of visits, so 1,000 visits for example, that equates to a 5% conversion rate. So typically with our clients we see that they either have those either two issues or problems that arrive. They either don't get a hell of a lot of traffic to their website, or they do get some traffic, but they're not doing anything meaningful when they're there. So that is doing this initial research and having a look at your site just enables you to highlight what needs to be done. So yeah, so that's how to work out your conversion rate. Oh. Next up is okay, so you know what your conversion rate is, you've worked it out, you've benchmarked your site, now you want to increase that. So there are a whole host of ways of doing this, but I'm just going to cover kind of 3 of the ones that I think work really, really well. So first one, creating case studies. So obviously on your websites you will have, you'll be talking about your products, you'll be talking about your services, but actually you need to show, not tell your audience kind of that you can do what you're saying you can do. So it's a case of having your case studies on there, showing that actually, you've provided a great service, you've provided great results for your customers. It means that, you're not just saying you're good at it, you're showing you're good at it, you're proving that you're actually doing what you say that you can do. So highly recommend creating case studies on the website. The second one is ensuring conversion actions are well signposted. So this sounds a bit mental, but the amount of times that we see websites where actually we go to fill in the form doesn't work, or we look for the phone number on the site, it's really hard to find, or the address is really hard to find. You need to make sure if there's meaningful actions that you want a user to take, they're easily signposted and easy to get to and easy to see, and they actually work. And finally, this is what we're going to focus on pretty much in this presentation, is creating great content that answers the questions they are asking. There is no point having a website where you don't address what your audience wants to know. So yeah, they're my 3 kind of top tips for increasing that conversion rate. So if I haven't hooked you at this point on why SEO is super important, just a couple more reasons. So obviously I've mentioned that it can produce higher, produce more and higher quality traffic. It can also impact and influence the buyer journey, improve the user journey on your website, and it's fairly cheap in comparison to kind of other marketing methods such as paid advertising, which needs constant funding. So, and it has longer term benefits. But yeah, ultimately, SEO allows you to get seen for relevant searches that are super relevant to your business and important to you. So then you're like, okay, Ella, I'm sold. Sign me up. How do I get started? So we're going to run through first, just kind of identifying goals, how to understand your audience, and how to track your conversions. So, do you have business goals? And it sounds mad, but actually, again, we see clients that they know what they want to achieve, but they haven't kind of gone granular enough, or they haven't really honed in on what they're trying to achieve. So an SEO strategy has the sole aim of supporting business goals. So we need to make sure that we have those business goals clearly aligned. And so business goals, when properly set and clearly communicated, can help ensure there's alignment, transparency, and no effort wasted across teams. You need to make sure everybody in your organisation is working together for a common goal, all working towards the same thing. So business goal setting, you need to make it smart. And I know this isn't a new concept, everybody's heard of SMART, but it works, and I think it's definitely something that everybody should utilise when it comes to goal setting. So making sure it's specific. Choose a specific focus that you want to improve upon. Is it quantifiable? Is it going to be a percentage increase or a monetary increase? And is it attainable? Is it actually achievable in your specific situation? Have you based your goals on your own data? Is it, to make sure you can actually achieve it? And is it relevant? Is it relevant to the business's long-term plan? Is this something that's going to help you in your, your 3, 5, 10-year plan? And then making it time-bound. We all know that, if you've got something to do, unless there's a deadline, it just kind of gets pushed back. So attaching a deadline obviously increases the pressure to actually accomplish the goal. So some examples. So this could be increasing company turnover by X% by X date, or upselling existing customers to increase average customer value by 15% by X date. So just some examples there. So then moving on to the SEO goal setting. So we've set our business goals, we understand what we want to achieve as a business, we need to make sure our SEO goals align with that. So some examples would that be, so actually if you're looking to get more leads through to your business, it might be that actually you want to increase organic traffic or increase organic leads, or if you're launching a new product and you want to kind of get have more brand awareness in the marketplace, it might be increasing ranking position of particular keywords. So you're just kind of breaking down that into the smart kind of analogy. So looking at organic leads, obviously that is the specific thing that we're looking to increase. Making sure it's measurable. So 25% increase, well, what time period are you going to compare that to? So is that going to be last year's totals, or, you know, last year was maybe a bit difficult for people, so actually are we going to compare it to 2019 totals to make it a little bit fairer? And actually what percentage increases have been achieved previously. If you actually saw that, you know, 2018 to 2019 you had a 5%, then 2019 to 2020 you had a 3%, and you're saying you want to do 25%, is that actually achievable based on your previous data? And actually, do you have the time and the resources in-house to actually accomplish it? So you need to make sure it's attainable. And then making sure it's relevant. So agree kind of, you know, what are, you know, we said organic leads, but what does that mean? What are the conversion points that will be included? So is that going to be form fills? Is that going to be phone calls that have come through from a user from a search engine? Or is that going to be brochure downloads, brochure downloads, or guides, etc.? You need to agree what's going to be included in that goal. And then again, making it time bound, so making sure you put a little bit of pressure on yourselves by putting a date in it. So yeah, so at this point you're like, right, I know what my business is trying to achieve, I know what my SEO goals are. Next thing to move on to is understanding your audience. So at this point it's really important to understand your customer personas. So do you know what they are? So a customer or a buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customers based on data and research. They help you focus your time on qualified prospects, guide product development to suit the needs of your target customers, and align all your work across your organisation, from marketing to sales to service. So essentially, that may sound a little bit abstract, but it's really important that you actually, you know, you don't want to just, you know, target everybody. You need to understand who your ideal customer is, and that you can't be everything to everybody. So for example, you wouldn't drive up to an industrial estate and knock on the doors of all the companies there. You'd actually, you know that's never going to work. You know what companies are going to be a good fit for you. So you need to apply that same analogy to your digital business. So making sure on your website you know who you're targeting. So we at Finally, we kind of really break down the customer personas. We look at actually what is our ideal customer, what are they interested in, what do they care about, what are their pain points, their challenges, their problems, how are they searching online. And once we understand that, we can address that with our website and our marketing. We break it down a little bit further. We have this little matrix here. So we give our persona a name. We look at their background. What's their job title? What's their career path? Do they have a family? Is it actually, you know, a managing director? Are they university educated? Are they married? Are they predominantly male or female? Are they of a particular age? Do they have a particular company turnover that we want to focus on? Are they in a specific location? And we even go down to the kind of the identifiers, actually understanding their demeanour, their communication preferences. Do they, you know, are they likely to use live chat on your website, or do they prefer email, face-to-face contact? So we really break that down into to really fully understand our audience. Then we go a step further. We look at how they find us, their challenges, what they care about, and the obstacles to converting. So it actually might be that they understand they have a problem, that, you know, right, we need this X component, or we need whatever. They'll do a Google search. Or actually, you know, it might be quite a close-knit community, and actually word of mouth is really important. Or, you know, actually they prefer face-to-face, so something like an exhibition like today is where they meet their ideal audience. And then understanding what they care about. Actually, what drives them? Is it price? Is it finding the best solution for them? Is it kind of proof of concept or reliability that they care about? What's actually going to make them be like, yeah, this product or service is for me? And then understanding their challenges. So, you know, they might have their own internal KPIs that they need to meet that actually is going to influence their decisions. That could be, you know, productivity or, you know, cost per part, stuff like that, that actually is their challenge internally, which will influence that decision. And then obstacles to converting, this is a huge one. Understanding what the objections are going to be for your audience means that you can address them early on. So they might be actually trust, they might be reluctant to change. It might be that actually, you know, they've been with their current supplier for years and, you know, everybody in their business like is so used to that piece of software or that machine or, you know, that service or product that actually it's going to be really difficult to kind of like migrate over to something new. So they've got that, you know, reluctance. Or actually, you know, if we know pricing is something they care about, actually lack of transparency on pricing or confusing pricing could be an obstacle for them. So really, by doing this, you build up a huge picture of your audience, which means that you know them inside out, you know how to attract them, you know what they need to, what information they need or how they tick. So it's super useful. Okay, so we've done our personas. And again, you can do that for, you know, you might have different job titles or different, slightly different personas. You do that for all of them. And once you've got that, we now can move on to how to attract them. So I always say at first point is you understand what your audience needs. So take a step back, put yourself in your customer's shoes and have a look at your own website. Do you have the correct product or service information? You know, you might have it on there, but is it up to date? Is it current? Is it got the latest, you know, brochures? Is it, you know, actually is it in a language that your customers are going to understand? Or is it in the technical jargon that you in-house understand? You need to make sure it's super clear for your audience. And do you have the content that answers your audience's questions? You know, if they've said price is something they really care about, do you address that on your website? If it's something that's actually, you know, their first thing they're going to be looking for, is it there? And do you have the right information to overcome obstacles to converting? So we talked there about that actually reluctance to change could be a big thing. That actually, you know, they're scared, they might be nervous or wary of changing supplier. Do you discuss how easy that you can do that migration or how seamless your kind of transition can be? Do you address that? And finally, do you have the correct and easy accessible contact information? So again, I kind of covered it in a couple of slides ago, but making sure you do have those contact forms, do have those brochures, do have those phone number, address, stuff like that, all the information that they need to be able to get hold of you, making sure that's easily and accessible on your website. So okay, you've done your personas, you've done your manual review, you've got your whole list of things, you've been brutal on your website and it's all going to be great improvements that you can make. So you're like, yep, got my checklist, I'm going to work through that, I'm going to improve my site. So then you can kind of move on and be like, what else are they asking for? So there are a number of free resources that anybody can use to help you understand the questions and queries that your audience are asking. So there's some that I've listed here. So Answer the Public is a really great tool. So you can type in kind of keywords about your product or service and it gives you the who, what, how, why, when questions associated to that. So you can basically find all of the questions that people are asking in search engines regarding your product or service. You can carry out manual Google searches. Google provides SERP features, which are search engine result page features. So if you do a search, you might see a people also ask box, which has questions that break, and then you can click on and you can read the answers. If you scroll to the bottom of the search engine page, you'll also see extra questions that people are asking. Google gives you that information about, you know, related topics. Another great site, Also Asked, very similar to Answer the Public. And the next one is something that I use daily. So it's a free Chrome plugin. So literally Google related keywords plugin, install the Chrome plugin, super easy to do. And it sits in the search engine. And when you type in any queries, it literally has all of the related keywords there with some volumes as well. So yeah, super free tools to basically understand all of the related queries and questions that people were asking about your service. So I've done some examples. Obviously, I've based this on a marketing agency because it kind of, you know, fits in with what we're doing. So did a really quick 10-minute Google search. I used some of those tools that I've mentioned and pulled a whole host of questions. So these vary from, should I hire a digital marketing agency? How can I generate leads fast? How can I do marketing for my own business? How to get more visitors to my website? So these are the sort of questions that people are asking related to what we are offering as a marketing agency. But for you guys, this could be, you know, something like, you know, I need to machine a certain component, or I might need to, you know, something like that. And then next up, so you've got your whole host of questions. You now need to understand the customer buying journey. So obviously nobody wakes up in the morning and decides, I'm going to buy something today. There's a whole process that goes into purchasing, whether that's research, that's looking at the pros and the cons. Basically, time goes into making a decision. So the customer buying journey can be broken down into 3 parts. So you've got awareness, consideration and decision. So the awareness stage is when you're aware of a pain or a problem that you have. The consideration stage is that you're aware of a solution. And the decision stage is aware of providers that provide that solution. So they're the different stages that people go through, and it's super, super important to be answering questions for each of those stages, because when people are in that earlier stage and you guys are popping up on the search engine results, providing answers, they're going to remember you when you're in the consideration stage. They're going to remember you when you're on the decision stage. You're all meeting their needs at every stage of that buying journey. So what I've done, those initial queries that I found, I've mapped them. So you can see in the awareness stage, you know, I've got kind of those early on questions where they understand that they've got a problem. How can I generate leads fast? How to increase business sales? How can I do marketing? The consideration stage is actually they found a solution. A marketing agency is an option for them. Why use a marketing agency? Are they worth it? How much do they charge? Should I hire one? And once they've decided, yep, a marketing agency is the way I need to go, it's then finding the best providers. So, you know, the best marketing agency in their area, or the best digital agency, or the best B2B agency. So it's proper, super niche or specific to what they need. So yeah, so you can see that fully mapped out there. Okay, so you've done your initial research, you've found all the questions, you've mapped them to the different stages of the buyer journey. It's now to go to do a little bit of SEO, do a little bit of keyword research. So it's super important to understand, actually, okay, I know all these questions, but how often are they searched? So you can easily find out the monthly search volumes for those queries. So that will be how many times per month people are actually searching for those. So actually, you know, if that's huge, you know that that question's really popular. It's in demand, we need to answer it. You can also determine the level of competition and keyword difficulty. So obviously, as you know, there's loads of, your market may be saturated, or you might have a lot of competitors who do very similar service or products to you. They're probably going to be trying to rank for those keywords or those questions or answering those questions. So it's important to understand how competitive those queries are. So obviously you don't want to, spend loads of time creating some great content, but actually because it's so competitive, you're never going to get on the page 1 of Google. So, we want to make sure that the effort is actually going to have the results that you require. And it's really important to understand user intent. And I know it sounds silly, but sometimes, this happens to me sometimes when I've got a question that I think people want to ask, I whack that into Google and have a look at what the results that actually come up. So I can understand what Google understands that user intent to be, because they're obviously providing the answers that they think are most relevant to that question. And sometimes I'm like, oh, that's slightly different to what I was going to say. So actually the user intent's not exactly what I believed it to be. So that's something else to really consider, is actually what does the user mean by that question or query, and are you going to answer it effectively? So some common mistakes we have when we do this keyword research is that actually choosing keywords that aren't specific enough or relevant enough, are basically too broad. And this can mean that you kind of get wasted traffic or wasted clicks, because actually what you're offering isn't exactly what they need. So a good example of this would maybe be CNC machines. For example, that could be a little bit too broad, because actually you might get hobbyists clicking through to your website, or actually people looking for wood CNC machines instead of metal CNC machines, or kind of entry level. So it's a little bit too broad for what you're trying to achieve. Therefore, if you're not going to get that super relevant quality traffic that we've discussed. And then also choosing keywords with too much competition. As I mentioned, if it's a super competitive keyword, it's unlikely that straight away you're going to be able to rank on page 1 of Google. Therefore, it might be better to go for a less competitive keyword. It might have less monthly search volumes, but actually you're going to perform better for it. And then keywords without enough traffic. Obviously, if there's no one searching for it, you know, I'm not saying always that you shouldn't go for these, because if it's a super niche keyword and only 10 people per month are searching for it, but them 10 people are going to be your ideal customers, going to be super relevant for you, then of course do it. But actually, if you're like, I'm not sure, there's not much search volume, sometimes, you know, you might decide it's better to not go for that keyword. And then also trying to rank for a single keyword at a time. So years ago, you were able to find a keyword, had good levels of search volume, low competition, optimise your page fully with that one keyword, and you'd be on page 1 of Google. Doesn't really work that way anymore. Google's kind of grown, the algorithms have changed slightly, so now it's important to kind of look at kind of keyword clusters, keywords that are super related, super relevant to each other, and actually naturally optimise your pages for those terms. So when you're kind of thinking of content, or you know, you're writing, you're kind of including those different keywords in there. And it's really important to remember that people search for the same things in different ways. So when you're doing those manual Google searches of those queries and questions, actually see what comes up. Sometimes you might see that it's, you know, website content, but actually it could be videos. So you can see, you know, it might be actually we need a video to answer that. That might be more useful for us. So yeah, it's really important to bear that in mind. And then to be able to do that, so how do you do this keyword research? So again, there's a number of free tools that you can use. So there's a website called Ubersuggest, where basically you can whack your keyword or query in, and it will tell you how competitive and what the monthly search volumes are for that, so you know whether or not to write content on it. There's Google Ads Keyword Planner. And you could use this, it's really good for search volumes, it's super accurate. It's less, obviously this is a paid for platform, but this is a really good tool within it. And then paid, I mean by it's Google Ads, not paid for, it's free tool, but it's a Google Ads tool. So the competition will be based on paid, so it was not so great for organic, but the monthly search volumes are really useful. Another website called Word Tracker. And then again, manual reviews for intent, and just seeing, you know, what pops up and whether, you know, you've actually, you're hitting what the person's actually asking. So, okay, you understand your persona, you know what they care about, you know the questions they're asking, you've pulled all of those questions, you've mapped them to your buyer journey, you've done some keyword research, you've knocked out the ones that are really competitive or nobody's searching for, and you're like, right, these ones are good. Then start creating content. And basically, by creating this content, you're answering the questions that your audience are asking. So for us at Finally, we understand that our customers are asking, you know, how much does digital marketing cost? How much does a blog cost? Should I hire a digital marketing agency? And these are all blogs that we've created on our own website. So this means that, you know, we're actually, everything they're asking for, we're providing them with that information. And by doing that, we're being more visible. If you're answering those different questions, you're going to be found in search engines for a vaster, higher portion of keywords that you previously wasn't. And it also means that when people do land on your website, not only are they going to see the products and services you're offering, you're actually going to be answering those core questions for them without even having to speak to them. They can already understand what you as a business do, they can understand how you overcome their objections, how you address their pain points before they've even spoken to you. So at this point you can knock out the people that aren't going to be a good fit for you, and when you do speak to them, they're going to be really keen because they've already answered a number of their questions. Okay, so moving on to the last bit. So, you know your business goals, you know what you're trying to achieve, you've mapped your SEO goals, you've aligned them to the business goals, you know your audience, you've created some amazing content, you've improved your website, then you need to make sure that you're tracking. So why is website tracking important? Well, what is the point of having a website if you have no idea what it's doing for you? If you have absolutely no idea how it's performing, you know, how many users visit it, there is literally no point in having a website. So, are you tracking your keywords? Do you know how many users visit your website? Do you know which marketing channels are working for you? It might be that actually, you might have an agency, or you might in-house be doing social media. Do you know what that's achieving for you? Do you actually know how many users that's driving to your website? Are you tracking your website conversions? Do you know how many form fills you get per month? Do you know how many people are phoning you from the website? Do you know how many people are downloading your machine brochures? If you're not, then you can definitely use some tracking products which I've listed here. So you may have heard some of these. So Google Analytics is a free tool that you can implement on your website. It basically tells you how many users are viewing the site, what pages they're looking at, what sources they're coming from. So actually, is it coming from social media? Are they coming from organic search, etc.? It breaks down all of that information. It tells you, what pages they're jumping off, how much time they're spending on each page of your website. It gives you all of that really useful information about your website. Next one is Google Search Console, and I cannot rave about this tool enough. So this enables you to troubleshoot, maintain, improve your website. So if there are any issues that mean that actually your website can't be indexed in search engines, so basically search engines can't crawl it and pull that useful information into their index. It also enables you to actually see the exact queries that people are putting into search engines that produced your website that they clicked through on. So you can literally see what people are searching for to find you. Then we have Ahrefs keyword rank checker tool. So this is really useful because basically you can whack in your domain or your website URL, the keyword that you want to see if you're ranking for, and it'll literally tell you what position you're ranking in. So if you're doing all of this great content, you're optimizing for these phrases, you can literally check to see where you're ranking in Google's listing. And then again, we've got Uber Suggest, which is very, very similar. You can pop in your domain and it will tell you kind of how you're ranking or what competitors are ranking above you. And then again, manual checks. Just whack, if you've written a piece of content on a question, whack that in and just see who's ranking above you. If it's a competitor, how have they structured their content? What have they written about? Is there something like, oh, they've written about that, maybe we should write about that? It can basically give you some opportunities that you can kind of utilise. Okay, so that's pretty much everything. So just to summarise, so as I mentioned, organic search is probably the highest driving source of traffic to your website, typically is. So you need to utilise SEO to maximise your website's performance. Super important to set your business and SEO goals. There's no point doing anything if you don't know what you're trying to achieve. And then create personas, understand your audience, understand what they care about, what they're asking, what they need. Then carry out a manual review of your website for missing content. Be brutal, do rip it apart, see what's wrong with it, see what you're missing, and then you can just work on it and improve it. And then research what your audience is asking for. So use those free tools, find the questions related to your products and services, and then answer them. Use that keyword research to decide the best phrases and questions, the ones that have the most volume, aren't too competitive, that you can actually rank well for. And then get started on creating great content. And then making sure you're tracking those conversions. You need to make sure you've benchmarked at the beginning so you know actually what all this hard work has actually achieved for you. And by doing all of that, you're going to be more visible in search engine results, which ultimately means that you're going to have more opportunities to create leads and ultimately sales. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. I hope that was useful.